Now that we have discussed hide and unhide, let's look at two of the classic ways we could start building a model. One of which I don't recommend, but it's a good way to kind of start out to see why it's such a better route to go the other direction. So I'm going to start by just drawing a really big slab on the floor here. Go ahead and use my rectangle. I recommend absolutely always drawing a slab before you start a model. It can be as big or as, as long as it's bigger than the whole of your model, because you kind of want to think of these SketchUp models as mini foam core models that are digital. You don't want to just start drawing on nothing. You want there to be a ground plane. I always hate looking at models that just look like they're floating. So you need a floor, and that floor should have a thickness. So I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to make this a group. And I'm going to double click on this, and I'm going to push pull it down, and I'm just going to arbitrarily push pull it down. It doesn't matter how thick the floor is. So I'm going to right click and close that group. Okay, so let's say we know how big the footprint of this building is. So we're going to start by just pulling a little guide off of this line here, and now I know that I want to go. We'll make it a little small. I know I want to go 20 feet, and so I type in 20, 0, and then feet, enter. And then I'm going to want to pull a guide this way, and I'm going to go just arbitrarily pull it back a little bit, because I can always pull my slab to make it bigger. We're pretending that this is like the earth. And now I'm going to pull this back, and I'm going to make this 25 feet, enter. So I've got a 20 by 25 foot shape. And I'm just going to pull another guide this way and do the same thing. Again, this is going to be 20 feet, enter. So I've got two rectangle shapes that are using guides that are going to be my plot. And in this section, I'm going to do a building where I offset the walls and get the wall thickness based on offsetting. And in this one, I'm going to build the walls individually. So go ahead and take my rectangle tool and start from corner to corner. And the very first thing I do is I double click on it and I make it a group. Now, I'm going to double click to open this up, and I'm going to push pull this building up, and I'm going to make the total height 15 feet, enter. Right click, close the group. All right, so what I have is I have a huge box. Now the easiest and simplest way I could start by making a model is just making a box like this and using my offset tool. So if I double click on this box to open it up, and let's give the walls a thickness of, let's say, 8 inches. Let's make this an older building. So I'm going to go to my offset tool here, and I'm going to click into this point, and I'm going to type 8, enter. So I've got 8 inches. Now I'm going to push pull this face down, and I'm going to push pull all the way. I'm going to look inside, and you can notice that we've done this once before where we can see that I'm on the face outside of active. I can also click anywhere on this face because this plane and this plane are occupying exactly the same space. So when I click like that on anywhere on this face out here, I'm clicking in exactly the same place, because essentially what I'm doing is I'm push pulling that face all the way down. So I'm going to right click and close that group. All right. So what I have here is a real simple and basic shape, and this could be the start of my model. Now the problem with this, and the reason that this isn't the way I like to do things, is because this is almost as if you've taken a big giant block of styrofoam. Remember, we're thinking of this as a foam core model. So you've taken a big block of styrofoam and you've just carved the center out. What I can't do here is I can't hide these walls if I want to look inside. If I wanted to give you a view of this where I can look, standing in this area, and I wanted to just hide the wall so you could see what's going on the inside, I don't have that ability. When I right click on this and I go to hide it, I lose the whole thing. It all gets hidden. So I'm going to go ahead and edit, undo hide. So this is not the method I would recommend. What I would recommend is I would recommend making all of your walls as separate pieces. So let's start a new model on this side using the tape measure tool. So I'm going to click from point, and I'm going to type 8, enter. I'm basically just offsetting using guides. I'm just using a guide and clicking in 8, and I'm typing 8 all the way around. And remember, I don't have to type inches because it knows that automatically. So let's just start with one wall. So if I take my rectangle tool and I go from outside corner to outside corner on this thing, on this guide, I can now double click, right click, and make this a group. Double click on this to open it up, activate my push pull tool, and click on the face of this, and I already know my height here because I've got another building standing next to me, so that's going to automatically pop it to that 15 feet. So I click, and I've got 15 feet. So let's go ahead and go to my select tool and click out to close that. So I've got one wall here. Now I'm going to do my next wall. So with this wall, I want to start again from the outside corner. So I click from this point to this point. Notice I'm getting nice and close. I'm using my roller ball to zoom in so I can see it. So I click to that point, go to my select tool, double click. I'm doing all the same things I usually do. I'm just kind of orbiting with my mouse so I can see. Notice that as I work, I move around, and I always kind of keep like an axonometric view so I can see exactly what I'm doing, and I get nice and close so I'm deliberate. So I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to make it a group. Now I double click on this to open it up, and I push pull, click from this top part and click to that part because this is already at my 15 feet. Right click outside of the group to close it. Alright, now here's one thing that's a little bit of a, not a problem, but here's one thing that's kind of not perfect, and that is that I've got this overlap here. So you notice if I click from shape to shape, they're overlapping. How do I solve this? What I want is a nice chamfered corner there so that I can't see that this wall comes through this wall. So there's a couple ways to do this. So here's way number one. I'm going to double click on this face, and on this shape I should say, and I'm going to carve this piece away. So I'm going to take my line tool and I'm going to click from the inside corner to the outside corner, and I'm going to now select the face I want to push and pull down. I almost always use my select tool before I push pull because I want to be really, really deliberate. I want to tell the push pull tool exactly what it is I want to push pull before I do it. So now I can click on the push pull, click on this top face, and start dragging it down. And I'm going to orbit around as I do this. And I'm just using my mouse to do that, and I'm using my mouse to zoom out. So I can start navigating while I'm doing my movement here. So I'm going to push pull this all the way down until I touch the floor. Click. Now I'm going to close that by just selecting outside of it. So you'll see I've started that chamfer movement on this face, on this shape, but the group still goes all the way through. So let's go ahead and hide this. So I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to select hide. So I can see that I've chamfered this corner here, which is what I wanted to do. So I'm going to go ahead and edit, unhide, unhide last. Okay, so that's way number one to do that. Way number two is that I can open this side now, and I can move this line. And if I move this line in a parallel fashion right along this line here, so I've selected the vertical, and I'm going to go ahead and activate my move tool, and I'm going to click on that top. I'm getting really close here. I'm clicking on that top endpoint, and I'm going to move it along the red. And if I hold shift down, I've forced it so that there's nowhere for it to go but along that red axis. So I can pop it right to that point. Click again, and I'll go ahead and close it. So I've basically just created the chamfer I wanted to begin with. So I can do that same thing. Let's do it on this side, and let's do it where you can see what I'm doing without anything in the way. So I'm going to go with my move tool, and I'm going to click on this point, and notice I'm dragging it along the green, and I've got the guides there, so the guides are helping me. The guides are forcing this to go where I want it to go. Unless I really exaggerate, if I pull back and really exaggerate this, and I can pull it wherever I want, and I can pull it backwards through itself, but because I've got these guides here, they're forcing me to pop to where I want it to go. Click. So I've just managed to chamfer the side of this wall without even needing to match it to an existing wall. And click. Let's do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to double click on this, select this select this line, go to my move tool, and click from one point to the inside point, and pull back, and go ahead and just close it. Now the final and simplest way to do this, which is typically what I do, is I would start from outside corner to inside corner, drag it along to the other inside corner, to the other outside corner, and then back again. So I've basically, instead of using the rectangle tool, I've already pre-chamfered my walls without even needing to. And this is what you can do if you really know where your wall is going to be. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to make this a group. And I'm going to double click on this to open it up, and I'm going to push pull this up to the other wall, and right click to close it. Okay, the final thing that I can do is, because this is a perfect rectangle, I can just copy this wall and use this wall on this side. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go with my move tool, and I'm going to start from the inside, and I can find the midpoint right away just by kind of popping to it, and it'll tell me it's on the midpoint. So I'm going to click once to start that. I'm going to hit my copy tool, and I'm going to drag it around like this, and I'm just going to stop at this point kind of before I get to the end. Now I'm going to use my rotate tool to start from the middle again. I click once to get that started. I drag along the line that I want to start rotating, and I rotate it around, and I type in 180 or 180, which gives me my 180 degrees. And now I can finish that final movement by clicking and dragging, and I'm going to hold shift down once I get on the red. So I'm holding shift so it slides perfectly along this face, and then I pop it to that last point. Okay? And the beauty of this now is that I can right click and I can hide this wall if I want to look inside, and if I want to get nice and close and show you what that room looks like, I can hide the wall I want to hide. I can also move these walls individually if we find out we actually mismeasured to begin with, or we want to expand on this house. So I can make this, I can start to move this wall out, and I can type 5 feet if I want to make it 5 feet bigger. And then I can edit, unhide. Let's unhide all. So I can now expand this, and I have the opportunity with this one to open this face and select, using my select tool, all of this face, and start to move it along that same axis, holding shift down until I get to that point, and close group. So I have a lot more options with this. You can see already from a very simple model how much more effective this one's going to be than this one is as far as building a bigger model.